Thank you, Jim. That was wonderful. So my talk this morning is choosing yourself. And I was using Carl Jung as my inspiration for this talk because I don't think there's really anything more spiritually challenging aspect of our journey than to love ourselves. It's a challenge. We often hear from experts that, in order to love someone else, you have to love yourself first. But I think there's an additional challenge that spiritually, to love God, we have to love ourselves, to fully embrace ourselves. There's a little church down the road, and they put up signs, little messages each week, and I read them often. And a couple of weeks ago, they had one that said, "Love the Creator, but hate the creation." I don't think you can do it. I don't think you can do it. I don't think you can hate the creation but love the one who created it. And I don't think it's wise to tell the Creator that you don't like its creation. It's like telling one of your friends that their baby is ugly. Yeah. No. You will lose a friend and you may be missing some front teeth. Not a thing to do. When I was still in Macon, I had two friends, and they had their first born baby. And of course, as all new parents are, they just were enraptured by him. Well, the little guy, he wasn't really a good-looking little baby, but he wasn't ugly. But he had developed a tendency to want to sleep on his tummy. And so by doing that, he rubbed a blood blister on the tip of his nose. Some would say it was bright and shiny. Some would even say it glowed. When you first saw him, there was a bit of a shock. It was like finally seeing Rosemary's Baby. It was like, oh. Now, I had made the mistake of taking my mom and sister over to see him, and we drove home silently in the car. My sister thought she would venture a polite, comment, and she said, I still think he's cute. I think he's cute. My mom, never one to sugarcoat the truth, said, yeah, he's cute. Gave me an acute attack of indigestion looking at him. That's how cute he was. Now, his dad, Tony, he thought he was perfect. He thought he was perfect. And he would tell friends he was going to get out his old camera equipment and take pictures of him and send him off to the baby modeling agencies. And all of his friends, we didn't say anything to him. We just thought, oh, isn't that so sweet? Isn't that precious? And that kind of love is precious. And that's the exact kind of love God has for you. That's how much God is enraptured with you. I remember when my niece and her husband had their little guy, and he would start walking. They would stand around him in amazement, in awe of him taking his first steps. Spirit is enraptured with you in the same way. When it sees you after you've had a broken heart willing to love again, when you're willing to try after you've had disappointments, when we're willing to let go of hurt and pain, just like my niece, it's enraptured seeing you wobbly and moving forward. You are loved. And that power which created the sunrise, the rings of Saturn, or Orchid, it created you for the sheer joy of it. And it loves you. It supports you. And to let it unfold in our lives, all we have to do is give our attention to that part of it which is loving, starting with ourselves. To reject ourselves is to reject the close expression of God in our lives. Spirit created us from joy, and there's a way for us to rejoice in its handiwork. You were the best idea Spirit had at the moment of your creation. and it has never been discouraged by your mistakes, it has far more confidence in your potential than it has ever been disappointed by your mistakes. Carl Jung, he said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, who you truly are. But to do that, you've got to choose yourself with all the little nooks and crannies of your personalities. And you have to step back from everything the world is telling you. You know, from the moment we turn on the television in the morning or we listen to family and friends, we're bombarded with expectations of what it's going to take to make us successful or happy or how we should look. And oftentimes, without realizing it, we send messages to our soul that we're not as good as those people over there. We're not as good as we should to be worthy of Spirit's love. And every time we ignore guidance in favor of approval or convenience out of fear of disappointment and rejection, we shut off that channel of possibilities. That uneasy feeling inside of us, that restlessness, that something just isn't right. That's not random. That's our soul speaking. It's an inner guidance system calling us back home. Jung, he said the unconscious, he says that realm of intuition and symbol, it's not optional, it's essential. It's a still small voice within, leading us to be more authentic, and not from fear, but because we're so in love with our possibilities. He said that when we make decisions from fear instead of truth, our life begins to fall into chaos and confusion. So we want to ask ourselves, are we making decisions from fear? Or are we living honestly? Fear of disappointment, fear of stepping outside our boundaries, fear of change. And the further we drift off from our true course, we feel lost. Choosing ourselves is not about rejecting others. It's not about ego or turning our backs on loved ones. It's about realizing that in order to give meaning to the world, we must find value at first within ourselves. Self-love is an indulgence. It's the foundation of a healthy life. When we honor our truth, we attract people and experiences that resonate with our path. The universe responds to our integrity when the false falls away and the true purpose shows up. And to do this, we've got to live authentically, and we must confront our shadows. Parts of ourselves that we don't like, the parts of ourselves we've judged or feared. And that's the work that most of us won't avoid. But this is where the true transformation begins, when we honestly examine ourselves. When you face the shadows and you integrate it, you unlock a strength you never knew you had, a clarity, a purpose. And from that place, you're not going to be afraid of the world. You're not going to allow the turmoil of the world to affect you. You gain ability to say no, not from anger, but from peace. No to what drains you, to what no longer serves you, and yes to life. Yes to your life. Yes to the life that you've come to live. Saying yes to ourselves means having the courage to let go of what no longer works for you and to trust what is truly yours. And you'll find help along the way. I had a very adventurous friend in DC, and I so wanted to be like him. He was always off hiking in Tahiti or parasailing in the Amazon, and I thought, gosh, I need to live like him. I need to have adventure. I need to go out there and take a bite of life. So I found out that in DC, right outside in Virginia, there was a company that would train you to fly a paraplane. There you go. It's basically a go-kart with a parachute attached to it and a big fan. Somehow, I thought this would be an adventure for me. So I got out there and they cranked the fan up, and before you know it, you're about 300 feet in the air. They were having us go around this little path they had made for us, and you had a helmet on and you could get instructions. So you went around this little circle 3 times, that was it. And the last turn I was making, so glad that I was at the end of this, the guy, I wasn't making the turn fast enough. So he kept telling me, turn, turn. And at one point he said, lean out of the cart. And I remember thinking to myself, buddy, I will land this at Dulles Airport before I lean my big rear end outside of this cart. Yeah. I came to an important decision that morning, and that was that I didn't need that kind of adventure. That wasn't for me. That wasn't what my soul craved. What my soul craves is learning. What my soul craves is connection. What I love is traveling and see different people. So I have a right to live that way. I don't have to make apologies to anybody. I have a right to chart my own course. Because if we try to be somebody else, we're just making a poor imitation of someone else. When we live authentically, we create a spiritual masterpiece. And that's what we're here to do. When we choose ourselves, the outer world, it shifts. Jung called this synchronicity. Things show up. He said it's almost like there's a divine orchestration where the right people, the right ideas, the right opportunities show up when you need them. He said it was as if the universe aligns itself to match our potential. Deepak Chopra, he was wanting to write a book on synchronicity. It's called The Spontaneous Fulfillment of Desires. But he didn't know if he wanted to write it or not. And so one morning he had sat in meditation and prayer, and he asked the universe, show me a sign. Now he lives on the ocean, so after his meditation, he went walking, and he looked down and he could see there was a coin buried in the sand. And he picked it up, and it realized that it was a coin he had received from a retreat many years ago. He had no clue how it had gotten on the beach, but on the coin was one line: trust the universe. Trust the universe. The universe is sending us guide and symbols and signals. And when you trust the universe, when you entrust the unfoldment of your soul and your nature, you're not here to be weak and wounded. You're here to be a bright, shining light of God's possibilities. You're here to illuminate. You are here to bring a healing, a blessing, and a joy. And you can do it by honoring yourself. Deepak Chopra, he says, the external world will mirror the internal questions. And he took that signal and went home and started writing the book. And it became one of his bestsellers. Synchronicity. Especially when we're honest with ourselves, we cannot live a true life if we're telling a false story to ourselves. A lot of the false story comes from our childhood, from old bosses, old teachers. Let them go. You are the master of your life. You are the one who directs your cells, and direct your cells to the greatest good you can. And be gentle and be kind. Acknowledge the times you haven't lived up to your true potential, but begin again. When you say no to what doesn't align with you, you're saying yes to your soul. And if certain relationships leave you consistently drained or diminished, that's not punishment, it's information. I had a friend right out of college, and He was a fun guy to be around. He always was in the middle of parties, jokes, and laughters. When I moved to D.C., I lost touch with him. But 15 years later, I was back in Atlanta, and amazingly, he popped back into my life by sheer accident. And gradually, even though it was always fun to be around, he was a fun person. But gradually, I began to notice that when I spent time with him, I never felt as good about myself. I didn't feel good about my possibilities or my opportunities. And it's bothered me for a long time, and I kept trying to focus, well, what's wrong with me? What do I need to change? And ultimately, I realized that I just need to recognize it. If I wasn't feeling good around him, then I didn't need to blame him or myself. I simply needed to move on. It's like when you find out you're allergic to poison ivy. You don't blame yourself. You don't blame the poison ivy. You just stop rubbing against it when you're out in the woods. When we start living from our inner truth, something beautiful happens. We stop chasing and competing or comparing, and we simply radiate. We radiate, and our presence itself becomes healing, and you'll find the world attracted to you. Jung said the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, because by accepting ourselves completely, we also accept the great gift we are. We also have to let go of all the hurt and pain and know that we are what we are looking for. There's a wonderful line that what you look for, you're looking with. You are looking with the eyes of spirit. And when we know that, this is when our liberation comes. And for me, accepting myself, it's been a big challenge. It has been a big challenge. Something you may not know about me, but I was born with a slight birth defect. And it's nothing that I have ever caused me any problems, but it bothered my parents to no end. And when I was a little guy, my father loved to do nothing more than in a family reunion, make me take my shirt off so he could point out the disability. If it had been much worse, he would have hired me out to the circus. I'm sure of it. Yeah. Now, like I said, it didn't bother me any, and I went on. And I went on to know something better. But it did cause me to have a deeper reflection of not fitting in. It caused me to pause and to think about my life, and it sent me on a deeper search for meaning. And this is what we want. We want to honor our challenges because it's in our broken places that our strength comes. It takes grit to polish the mirror. And in our broken cracks, this is where the spirit of love can shine through. We all want a problem-free life, but without challenges, there's no opportunity for growth. So let me tell you a little bit more about my friend Tony, the guy with the camera wanting to take a picture of his baby. A couple of years later, his little guy grew up, and his little guy kind of had trouble fitting in. For Tony, this was amazing. He didn't understand this because Tony was kind of an average guy, and that's what he said about himself. He said, I'm an average guy. He never was too bright, and he was never too dumb. He wasn't totally athletic, but he was coordinated. The amazing thing about him is he gathered a group of friends that looked after him almost all of his life. They took him from one job to the next, one career to the next. But his son didn't have that ability. His son didn't fit in. He had trouble in school. He was bullied. He couldn't relate to other kids. And Tony couldn't relate to him. He said, this wasn't my experience. I always got invited to the parties. I always got picked to be on the teams. And it caused a breach between the two of them because they just couldn't understand one another. Sometimes what we think is our biggest hurdle may be the springboard to our greatest possibilities. And learning to love ourselves is not isolation, it's illumination. Illumination. When you align with your soul, life stops feeling like a struggle and it begins to feel like a flow. Peace replaces pressure. Meaning replaces monotony. And the more you embody the truth, the more the world reflects it back to you. Choosing ourselves is not arrogance, it's reverence for the divine spark within. And when you honor that spark, you become a light for others trying to find their way home. Now, I'll conclude the story about my friend Tony. His wife, they both had physical challenges, and she died early on. And he started having really challenges in his 50s. And who was there to take care of him but his young boy? There with his purple hair and cut into a mohawk. And Tony would tell me, he said, I wanted my boy to be like others. But he said, I'm so grateful that I had the blessing to witness him to grow up to be the man he's become. When we open ourselves up to the truth of ourselves. Carl Jung says, when you look outside, you dream. When you look inside, you awaken. Now's the time for us to awake. The night has been long, the storm has blowed hard and long, but it's time to us to wake up from our dreams of lack and limitation, to wake up that we are isolated, that we are not loved, that we are here on our own. It's time for us to wake up to God's creation, that we are here and we are a vital part of it. We are the way Spirit is making life better. We are bringing a new heaven, a new earth through our hopes, our loves, our dreams. You are empowered to create the goodness, to manifest the glory of God here, now, at this time and in this lifetime. Spirit is with you. It's urging you on every step of the way. Don't be discouraged. Don't be fearful. Look up. Look beyond. There's a band of angels on their way, and those angels are love. Those angels are joy. Those angels are prosperity, health, and vitality, and those angels are for you. It's the truth in your life this morning. It's the truth in mine, and so it is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.